first, please, please, please listen to the prior episodes of my housemates because you guys all gave such great advice on like what to look for, what to consider. I mean, definitely speak to as many housemates as you can, like current residents or housemates or guests. Again, I know everything's kind of virtual right now. Even if you could get on a Zoom with a few of them, when you're deciding to move in is massive because it's like who you live with. It doesn't matter how pretty the place is, the location. Like with co-living, it's always the people, the community.
Mhm.
So yeah, get on the phone, get on a Zoom, try to meet as many of the residents as you can because that's going to make the decision for sure. That would
Yeah.
be I think my only advice. And then make sure that there's events being hosted, whether that's internally or you're inviting external people in. Again, this will be in like a post COVID world, of course, when we could get better into that again after the vaccine. Christine here with another fun episode of the Co-Living Code Show. Airs every Wednesday. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to our sponsors, ISL Furnishings. They're a brand created through Inner Space Living, and they're all about creating exciting spaces where design meets function. They've actually done quarters in Star City, so they've definitely done some big communities, some awesome, awesome stuff. You could see the pictures on their website. Inner Space parlayed its success in commercial grade unit furniture and conceived an elevated offering. And they strongly believe in the co-living industry, which is cool. And they were founded with the mission to bring your brand to life. Their goal is to revolutionize the unit furniture experience. And driven by creativity, ISL Furnishings believe that interiors should inspire brilliance. Every venue has its own voice. They exist to clarify that voice, interpret your brand vision, and delivers to quality on time, every time. And like I said, yes, they've done Star City and quarters, but they've also done smaller communities. They can do 10 beds and up. And you can definitely check them out at islfurnishings.com. So let's go ahead and launch into today's episode. So we are rounding out the 6th interviews with me and my housemates here at the Entrepreneur House. So we saved mine for last. I actually brought on Shiv, who I've actually known the longest here in the house, to interview me, to talk about the house. Thank you so much for all the feedback, you guys, about listening to our roommates, seeing how we live here. Feel free to model any or all of it. We're happy to share systems if you need any help with that. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this last interview. And then we have some amazing interviews coming up in 2021. We're already starting to record them. You guys, we got some big guests coming on. So I'm super excited. I'll leave it as a surprise. So let's go ahead and launch into this week's episode. Okay, everybody. So today I am coming on this episode because I am the 6th housemate of all of us here at the Entrepreneur House. Hope you enjoyed the other 5 episodes with my amazing housemates. This week, I actually chose Shiv to interview me because he's actually the one that got me back into the house, and maybe we'll share that story. So thank you so much for doing the interview. I don't have to interview today. I'm just going to answer questions. So thank you, Shiv.
Yeah, happy to be on the other side.
Cool. So what's your first question for me?
Yeah, let's get started. So, talk about when did you move in?
So as most people know, I first moved in back in I think it was 2015 to 2017. So I lived here about a year and a half and then left to West LA for 10 months and then left for Europe for 5 months. And then I'll let you tell the story from the start because it was such a crazy story because you're the one that reached out. I literally landed in LAX from Europe and
Yeah.
opened up my phone and you have all the text messages flooding in because you've been in the air for a while. And yeah, so I would love to hear, that text was from you, obviously. This was in August of last year.
Yeah, absolutely. We were in a place where two housemates, um, one had moved out and another was going to move out. And so, in our house, because it's such a big house, because we have a lot of expenditures, when it's less than, 6 people, it very quickly becomes very expensive. If we don't change the costs. And so most of the housemates, except for myself, they're ready to just get anybody in here who could pay. Because the thinking was we can't get good people within, days and weeks. And so I kept pushing and saying no to everybody we interviewed just because they wouldn't add value to the house in the way we wanted. and we had gone through a series of housemates that didn't weren't fits, and we were churning, and that just takes away so much energy. And so I stuck to our group 10 principle of like it has to be a 10 for everybody. The other housemates weren't a 10 for me, so we decided to manifest the perfect housemate and started to brainstorm what a perfect housemate would look like. And at the time for us, it was very clear that we wanted, some feminine energy. There were enough guys as is, someone with an incredible network, someone who would raise all of our games. And just, it's interesting that we talk about this now, but every time I work with you, Chrissy, I feel like I'm the most productive I ever am just because we work well together. But we were looking for somebody that, would raise our game. So we made a list of like maybe 15 to 20 things from, and very specific age, very specific dietary requirements, very specific productivity and network requirements. And I hit you up because I know you have a huge network to see if you knew anybody around here that might be interested in moving in. And I think that day you were like, "Well, I just landed and I'm looking for a place," and that was where it started.
No, and what was so funny was that you're like, oh my God, we just wrote it on the dry erase board. We just wrote all these things we wanted, like a couple hours ago, and you're this list.
No,
And
minutes. It was minutes before because you were the first person that came to mind. I'm like, it was like 5 minutes after I wrote the list, I hit you up, and you were like, I'm around. I'm like, holy shit, this is like, you're the perfect fit. How could I didn't even think that. I thought you were in Europe still.
yeah, no, and then I thought you'd made up, oh, this perfect list, and you fit it. And I thought you were kind of like making it up. And then when I arrived in the house, I looked at the board and I'm like, oh my God, that's literally like, did you write this after I said yes? And you're like, no.
Yeah, no, we were serious, and you're such a good fit. And even then, you were like, yeah, I don't want to do a commitment, but I was so tired of people moving out, where I was like 6 months minimum, and you're like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah, no, no, I said no. I'm like, no, no, no. I remember because, and I'm like, but last time I said 6 months, I was here for a year and a half. So I'm like, I'm probably going to stay longer. Like, but please don't put 6 months, like if I have to go back to Europe or whatever. But yeah, here I am over a year already, which is awesome. But yeah, and the
Yeah.
dietary, just for everybody listening, the dietary restriction was because they had a vegan living in here before, and we're on a paleo diet. So a vegan could live here technically, but it's a little difficult when
It's a
everybody
lot of
else.
extra work, yeah. The systems don't work, right? They have to go out of their way to make that work, and then it's like, why have a system? And it created a lot of challenges for people that weren't vegan because we were getting videos of baby pigs dying that weren't accurate, but it's very emotionally charged, and there's like a lot of negative energy. So, yeah, it's important. All those things really matter.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And I think it's important. You made a great point of like, be picky. Don't just take, yeah, your expenses might go up for a month or two, but like wait to find that great, perfect person to move in and not have so much
Yeah.
turnover.
Yeah,
Cool.
so let's talk about why you moved in and maybe get vulnerable about why you moved out in the first place. I remember you shared something around the bathroom and like, causing resistance. I think those are important things to understand when sharing a place with other people. But yeah, what brought you back?
Yeah, no, no, no. It wasn't the bathroom because beforehand, the first time around, I had my own bathroom. So like three of the guys were using one bathroom. They gave me, I think I was paying a little bit extra just to have my own bathroom. And so the reasons moving out before was mainly, to be honest, and this was a while back, so it's totally changed. It was a lot like a frat house, right? So it was like none of our cups matched, like plastic silverware, mismatched silverware, like messy all the time, like incredibly messy. The guys were great, so it was nothing against the guys at the house at all. I'm still dear friends with them. I've even co-lived again with a lot of them, even in LA. So that wasn't it. Trying to think if there's any other reason. Yeah, so just a home, a nicer home. We then started co-living. We got a house right up the hill, so we
That
still
was
hung
nice.
out. Yeah, and you guys came over, all the time. So it was a nicer home. We could entertain more. We can have like high level networking events, just because again, it was like a different type of house. But here, you guys like really upped the game in the last couple of years since I've been gone.
Yeah.
redecorated, got new furniture, have the most amazing, people flying in on private jets to come to our mastermind dinners. So yeah, you guys definitely raised the bar. So yeah, that's why I moved out, moved back in.
Yeah, and what do you like best about co-living?
Oh my God, there's so many things. So, I mean, it's the same stuff that everybody says, of course, like building community, having, pretty much living with your best friends, and just living with entrepreneurs where they get it. They get that you're passionate about something and you're going to work a lot of hours and they're not going to give you grief for that, or think that you're weird. So, like, I've lived with a lot of 9 to 5 people that hated their jobs and like were so excited for Fridays and dreaded Mondays, and like that's not me. So again, it's those normal answers. But what I also love, and I thought about this the other day, I heard a great song come on the radio, and I'm like, I love that I've been exposed to so many genres of music. I know this sounds weird, but like art, Ryan has great taste in music, like deep house music. You have great hip hop, rap, like, music that I hadn't even heard, and I'm using Shazam to like pick up like, okay, what song are they playing right now downstairs? And so yeah, and even
Benefits of growing up in Vallejo.
is that what it is? Is that what it is? And so yeah, each person like loves a certain different genre, and so that kind of rubs off on you. Even the other last homes I've lived in, same thing. You just learn so much about everybody you live with, especially everybody usually moves from different parts. Of the U.S. With you guys it was fun. Staying at your family's house back in September up there in San Jose. So
Yeah.
meeting everybody's parents and seeing like what traits were kind of carried down from your families. So yeah.
Yeah. So let's go deeper here and like tell us how it feels for you to live in this type of environment.
Ooh, great question, Shiv. I like it. I like it. So extremely inspiring for sure. So again, you just see people playing such a big game like yourself, like that's your medical device in the background. That's your company that you've been working on for 10 years, which is super rare in this day and age. And you're solving for chronic pain, right? And creating a pain-free world, which is incredible. That's so cool to watch. Like I always say, and like our desks used to fit, now I'm working from home still, but he not even found me a place to live, but also an office to work at that same, week that I landed, that I was so grateful for. And our desks faced each other there at
See,
your.
that was more for me because I knew I became more productive working with you. That was a win-win.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, because we didn't even we weren't even talking. I think we talk at home, but when we're there, we were just like working. We might
Yeah,
chit chat a tiny bit, but yeah, we were totally hustling.
if we can.
And everybody else, because that's fun, because that houses a lot of like startup. Your office is alongside of other startups, and everybody was just hustling there, and I miss that so much. During these COVID
Hmm.
times. So yeah, that's inspiration, motivation. How it feels. It feels like family, right? Like everybody's got your
Hmm.
back. If something happens, they're gonna help you. When COVID hit, like legit, 3 of us were sitting down, like, okay, if any housemate can't make it through, can we cover their rent so that they don't have to move out? And that was like a really cool, it was just like an impromptu conversation in the living room. So I thought that was really cool too.
One of the most memorable moments I have with you that I was really proud of you about is when we helped you break through a mindset to raise more funding. You want to talk about that really quickly?
Yeah, that was this summer. So that was like mid COVID. I think that was June or July. And it was just kind of like, oh, I don't want to ask my current investors for any more money. Like, I just don't. Like, some of them have already put in a couple times. And you guys are like, why not? Like, they believe in you, they believe in Kindred. Like, that's the first person you should ask are those people. And we had 4 amazing investors, and yeah, like all 4 said yes. It was crazy. Like, I'm like, oh, I feel so bad asking them, and you guys really like talked me up, just like, hey, like you're doing amazing work, and they're gonna say yes. So it was just that belief in that mindset shift, and then yeah, we like raised, it's just a couple days, raised the capital, so from angels, and
You
I love my
shifted in
angels.
hours.
Yeah, within hours. But yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to my 4 angel investors that are insanely incredible. So yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love best about you is like when we give you feedback, you're able to like implement it so quickly. It's shocking, and I think one of the things that holds most entrepreneurs back are the unknown unknowns. And you've demonstrated consistently to be able to get that feedback and then act on it. And it's really awesome because you get the results immediately. So it's always fun to give you feedback.
Awesome. Thanks, Shay.
Um, yeah. Next question. Can you explain summer camp and your favorite parts?
So I know these are the questions. So people that haven't heard the prior 5 episodes, you could definitely hear each housemate talk about their favorite parts of summer camp. So, we had two choices when COVID hit, back in March. It was like, okay, this sucks. This is horrible. We're going to quarantine and be miserable. Like, that's one way you could look at it, especially anything that life presents to you. There's two ways to look at it, right? Negative or positive. So we just out the gate. I mean, we're all like positive people. We're all optimists. We're going to have fun no matter what. Even if we have rough days, with our companies, we're going to make it. It just is what it is. And so, yeah, we were just like, let's make this the best time ever. And technically, the beginning of March was still winter. It wasn't even spring yet. So we were calling it summer camp. It was winter. It was spring. It was really summer. Now we're fall, but we just legit call it summer camp. And watching movie. We put like a drop down theater screen towards the beginning of the summer that we all chipped in for. We like added more couches, switched up the furniture. Again, we had a lot of time because we were all home for 24 hours every day, and ordered ice cream at night and just had like such an incredible, and we still are, went boating. We got a boating membership that a friend gave us, and we had so much fun boating together. And so, yeah, I mean, I have zero complaints. There wasn't a single argument in the house all these months. There was not a single issue argument between 6 CEOs that are working and living from home. Just crazy. And Sierra, wait, how can I forget? Sierra is my favorite part. I love having a dog in the house, and now she's just growing up quickly. But having a puppy running around just gave this fun energy. I missed having it. I haven't had a dog probably for 10 years now myself. So Trevor got one. So it's like so much fun to have somebody else take care of the dog, but you get to enjoy the dog. So Sierra is my favorite part,
Yeah,
or Great Dane.
the Great Dane puppy. Um, yeah, I think summer camp has been a huge breakthrough because personally I was stuck in quarantine mindset and like locking down, and I think the house helped me break through that and showed me that we can have fun. We were doing like way more, meditation and like just like it was a forcing function for positivity, working out, yeah, all of that, and it was like super exciting to have that shift because personally, if I was living by myself, I would have gone probably more negative, right? And so it was like hard to be negative here because everybody's so excited. We're spending so much time together.
Well, you had the unique, did you want to talk about that? I mean, your girlfriend, now fiance, I mean, you had a unique situation where you actually quarantined with her during
Yeah,
the first,
for
what
like
was
the
it,
first
6 weeks?
month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for yeah, so she's immunocompromised, and when quarantine kicked in, people were still coming back from trips like Hawaii and East Coast, and I wasn't sure what was happening, but it was a priority to protect her. So we quarantined in like 400 square foot studio, and what was amazing was like we got to spend so much time together. And at the end of that quarantine period, if you will, I still want to spend more time with her. So that was a good moment for me in terms of insight of like, okay, this is the person I love spending time with. I can't believe I still want to spend more time with them. And so it was another forcing function to pressure test that relationship. And happy to say the results are positive and encouraged me to propose. Yeah,
Awesome. Such a great
yeah.
story.
In terms of the house, is there anything you'd like to say about the cool events we've hosted? Our quarterly retreats, our wine nights, um, mastermind dinners. I know we've done less of those, but you want to share anything along those lines?
Yeah, no, for sure. So, I'll talk about each one quickly. Masterminds we host every Monday night. Actually, I know we've talked a lot on the prior episodes. Those are amazing. 7 to 9 p.m. like clockwork. A lot of us, if we're traveling, we make sure we get back before Monday, but before the meeting. So we're really good about attendance. It's $100 fine if you don't give a 24-hour notice if you're not going to make it. But again, it's super rare that somebody, unless they're traveling. And so that's really cool. That keeps us on track with accountability. I like the core value call outs. So we're kind of giving props to everybody from the week prior,
Hmm.
what they did really cool or awesome, or how they helped the house. So we kind of start off with a positive note. And the mastermind dinners, it's like 20, usually like 24 people around our big dining room table once a month. We bring in, investors, friends, colleagues, just anybody, just to broaden our networks and just have these great conversations, not about business, actually about life and family and just, really a unique way of hosting events and getting to know people on a deeper level. Those are once a month. It's so sad because on my Google Calendar, they still pop up. But,
Yeah,
and I keep deleting them every month, thinking like, when are we ever going to do this? I think one just
I
popped up
know.
recently, so that's a bummer. But and then same with wine nights. Wine nights were once a month. Those are bigger. Those are like 40 people. And so, yeah, those are fun because it's like really, it's not like your typical boring networking wine night. I think we make it fun.
Hmm.
The books in Bordeaux was cool. So people were bringing their favorite book. Like we put them all on the coffee table and then we went around and everybody chose a book. And then the person that brought the book would say why they love that book. So everybody walked away with a book. I should, that was your idea, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
It's one of the things I love doing is when I have a good book, sharing it with other people. What that does is it creates like a network around me that's constantly chiming about the book. So I get deeper into the book because I'm getting new perspectives. But I think, yeah, it's a fun little exercise to really, especially when there's a book I like Principles, create an echo chamber of, positivity and like deeper dives on that book. And it's
Ah,
always been valuable. It's like investment.
a Ray Dalio shout out. So anybody that hasn't
I
read
know, right?
Principles, go get it.
Absolutely.
That's
If you
awesome.
ever moved out, what is the best guess on what would be the reason?
Oh, I forgot to talk about quarterly retreats, and then I'll answer that
Oh,
question.
yeah. Go ahead.
So we just got back from another one. This one was kind of unique because we actually talked about like what gives us energy and what takes away energy. We
Mhm.
just felt like the quarterly retreats we needed to really kind of revamp them a little bit, switch it up. Because it's like we haven't had much turnover in the house, so it's like the same people every time. Going. So we wanted to change up the questions, the answers a little bit. So that's always really fun. And then we sneak in Sierra as our service dog. So she comes along with us. We'll usually go for a hike, eat some amazing pizza, go up to Lake Arrowhead. So we get kind of just, and the reason why people want to try to do that is take yourself, if you're going to go goal setting or reflecting, you just take yourself out of your current environment and actually you process things a little bit better. It's a fresh, energy and location. So we always go out. I think during the beginning of quarantine, we did one here, which that was fun too. That was the first time we'd ever done it
Yeah,
in.
well, I think my favorite part about those is turning in our phones on Thursday and then getting them back on Sunday. And that gives us, it helps me shift into working on myself and the business versus in my business. Like it creates like all this space to think and, preparing the team for me not being available for 4 days. Also gets a bunch of stuff done. It's kind of like quarterly, a closing point, right? For all the day to day like struggle work and living on the calendar and stuff. So
No, for
yeah,
sure.
it's a nice little break.
Yeah. And as we come up to the end of this year, everybody sets those New Year's resolutions, but then I feel like they just forget about them, 3 months into the year. They're just like, so I think every quarter is important, every 3 months to kind of review. You set those goals, great, but make sure you kind of review them throughout the year. So reason why I would ever move out, my guess is to either A, move, because everybody knows like I would love to live back in Europe for a little bit again, maybe like 3 months, 3 to 6 months out of the year. So that would be one reason if I wanted to go back over there for a few months. But I'm like, oh, I could try to find somebody to take my spot here. So anybody listening in the future, we can arrange something. You can live here, take my spot for those months. And then I move back in because I don't want to give up my spot. And of course, the housemates would have to approve that perfect person to hold my spot. Or if I like obviously settle down, got in a serious relationship, eventually I would not, I would move out. Those would be the only reasons that I can think of. I lived alone in Europe last year, and I thought it was going to be great. Like, oh, I've co-lived for so long. Like, let me just get my own, studio, a student hotel. So still like co-living in a sense, because you have community there, but I had my own place. And so then I got lonely after 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that leads us into something I wanted you to share. Speaking of like community and loneliness, for example, you shared something about co-living before in terms of connection that you're really passionate about. You want to talk about that really quick?
Yeah, I mean, loneliness is such an epidemic. Here, I remember we had one person. I haven't shared this story on the podcast ever. We had one person that was like clinically depressed. We didn't find out until after the fact. They were living in another country. They came in here to live for I think 3 months. So it's like we used to have like a short term where somebody could one room was like okay, people could come in from 1 to 3 months, which is cool because it brought different energy in the house. And so yeah, I mean, they confided in me kind of a month into living here, like, hey, I was like legitimately like clinically depressed. And living in this environment was like so great for me, and because I used to just kind of hide in my room. And with you guys are knocking on the door, and you're like, even if I like stay in my room for a day, you guys are like, hey, let's go for a hike. Hey, let's go for a bike ride, and like it was so important to me to be pulled out of that mindset and just, yeah. So he was just so grateful, and I think he co-lives now to this day. So he's not isolated. I think isolation is the worst thing you could do if you're depressed. Obviously, it's really bad. You're in your head, and so I think that's super cool. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What you shared with me that really resonated was the opposite of addiction isn't like a recovery program. It was connection.
Hmm.
And I think we get that connection here. I'm extroverted, so I definitely get my fill here. Like, I connection helps me recharge and unwind, and so that was a big breakthrough for me because before I was, kind of a solopreneur, if you will, like working in a silo and not getting feedback, and I realized that was a big mistake.
No, for sure. That's a great point. And I think in our house is unique because it is like a ton of extroverts and we all vibe great. But some people are like, oh, well, I'm introverted, so I can't co live. And that's not true at all. Like, I love seeing concepts that have both mixed together because it really brings the introverts out of their shell. And so they actually, you don't want identical people. Like, you're never going to learn if you live with everybody's
Yeah,
identical. Yeah,
yeah. I would even say Christian in our house is more introverted compared to everybody else, but he's really good at taking his time meditating, like, I mean, finding that time for himself to recharge.
for sure. I think Matt
Yeah,
would be a little bit, I would consider him introverted too.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, but the rest of
So, um, like on that point, any words of advice to those who are thinking about co-living with others or already do?
gosh, I mean, first, please, please, please listen to the prior episodes of my housemates because you guys all gave such great advice on like what to look for, what to consider. I mean, definitely speak to as many housemates as you can, like current residents or housemates or guests. Again, I know everything's kind of virtual right now. Even if you could get on a Zoom with a few of them, when you're deciding to move in is massive because it's like who you live with. It doesn't matter how pretty the place is, the location. Like with co-living, it's always the people, the community.
Mhm.
So yeah, get on the phone, get on a Zoom, try to meet as many of the residents as you can because that's going to make the decision for sure. That would
Yeah,
be I think my only advice. And then make sure that there's events being hosted, whether that's internally or you're inviting external people in. Again, this will be in like a post COVID world, of course, when we could get better into that again after the vaccine. So, oh, and I wanted to talk about this real quick because we had already filmed all the other 5 episodes before mine. The one of our houses, so this is on Thanksgiving week as we're filming this, but I don't think it's going to air until January because we've got a lot of episodes coming up. And one of our housemates actually did, and I know I've talked about this for so long. We were so lucky. Nobody got COVID. We didn't know anybody that got COVID. It didn't feel like super real to us. And then lately, some of our friends, the numbers are spiking here in San Diego. A couple of our friends got it, and now it's becoming real. Well, one of our housemates thought he had the flu. But he was so amazing that he quarantined. He's like, I got the flu, guys. I don't want you guys to get the flu. It's not COVID because I tested negative, and but I'll quarantine. I'm gonna wear a mask so you guys don't get sick. And then what was it, Shiv? Like 5 days, 6 days. When was
Yeah, it's
yeah,
like a week later. And this is a person that never complains, is like, the most easygoing, works the hardest, and was stuck to his bed for like 4 or 5 days straight, and got tested again, and was positive after testing negative. And so I think he really stepped it up in terms of protecting us by quarantining himself. And as soon as he found out, he went and got an Airbnb to quarantine outside of the house, which I'm super grateful for, because that can be a huge vulnerability in co-living, right? Like if someone's kind of careless. We could have all had COVID right now. Our loved ones could have had COVID before we were even testing positive.
yeah. So I know we had all tested, like the whole house had tested because we had come in contact with a couple friends that did get it, and so the whole house rushed. We all got tested so quickly. We were
Yeah,
all fine, and that's what's crazy because that was a week later, and so we got tested again, and then yeah, he left and got an Airbnb for like a week and a half until he got
yeah,
tested again, the third
yeah. In
time.
the last 3 or 4 months, I've gotten like 7 COVID tests.
Oh yeah, because you're travel, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so for our house, anybody traveling this entire time, where there's very little travel going on. But lately, once stuff calmed down, you guys start traveling a little bit more, or family stuff or whatever, weddings. Yeah, so everybody was so diligent about that too. Like you have to get
yeah. I think it's good to have those rules, right? Like our rule was that if we do travel, we have to get tested, wear a mask, have protocols in place to make sure everyone's comfortable.
definitely
Yeah.
awesome. So
Yeah.
anything else?
Those are all my questions. I think this is really it's cool to hear your perspectives on these things. Any last words you want to share with everybody watching?
No, that's it. That was fun. Thank you, Shiv. Again, it's always interesting to be on this side of the interview. But yeah, I am.
Yeah, it was super fun to be on this side for once.
Awesome. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Chrissy.
Okay. Bye. Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. And keep in mind, we are on YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes. And also, if you are a co-living community, you can reach out to us to be listed on the Kndrd platform. That's KNDRD.io. It's a great way to showcase pictures, videos, virtual tours of your community. Also, we have a link in the show notes for our 3 books on co-living. You can also find one of them on Amazon.com if you'd like the print version. And lastly, a very quick shout out to our partners over at ISL Furnishings. They bring light to your vision and already work with some of the larger companies like Star City and Quarters. See you guys next week.